AI will make the easy automated, will make the hard work easy, and it will make the impossible work now possible.
Welcome to the /podcast, where we lean into the future of IT by inviting fellow thought leaders, innovators, and problem solvers to slash through its complexity. Today, we're talking to Bruno Borges. Did I say that right?
Yeah, you did say it right. It's all good.
Bruno Borges, principal PM manager at Microsoft and 24 years of experience as a distinguished figure in the fields of product management, cloud developer experience, and tools and developer relations. Residing in Vancouver, Canada, Bruno specializes in Java runtimes, development, and enhancing developer relations for Microsoft Azure, aiming to create the best cloud environment for Java workloads and developers. Notably, he led the public announcement of the Microsoft build of OpenJDK, Microsoft's own open source distribution of Java. Prior to Microsoft, Bruno served nearly 6 years at Oracle, influencing developer relations strategy and governance. Recognized as a top Java influencer and a Java champion, Bruno's contributions have significantly impacted the Java community. That's a lot of stuff. That's fantastic.
It is a lot of stuff. I don't know how I keep track of that, but maybe I have a Word document somewhere with that written down. Maybe.
So Vancouver, huh? I didn't know you were in Vancouver. That's awesome.
Yeah, this happened sometime in 2018. My wife and I were living in California before that. We left Brazil in 2015 and worked for Oracle at the time. And then this opportunity came up to work for Microsoft. And we didn't have the green card at the time. And I was pondering between, should we stay longer at Oracle until we get the green card in the US, or do we jump out and get a new job, a great job offer and opportunity at Microsoft? But we would have to leave the country because of lack of green card, and the whole process of changing employers on an L1 visa at the time was painful. So we took the route of driving true north, and we ended up in Vancouver, Canada. And since then we've been here and we love it.
I've heard it's beautiful there. I've heard Vancouver is amazing. So I've never been, but I've heard it's awesome.
Yep.
And yes, you all heard that right. He works at Microsoft and he's doing Java stuff, or he has done Java stuff for Microsoft. That hasn't always been the case that Microsoft and Java were buddy-buddy, but I think in recent, history that they've really, they're a real crucial member of the Java community these days. Microsoft is.
Yeah, Microsoft had quite the history, right? And it was funny because as soon as I joined the company in 2018, I was invited to deliver a keynote at Spring One. And from at the time, Pivotal was still in control of Spring before the merge or acquisition by VMware. And Pivotal and Microsoft were great partners at the time. They were doing joint efforts for Azure and Spring, etc. And then I joined to lead the Java developer relations team, and they said, "Hey, Bruno, so welcome to Microsoft. By the way, you are a keynote speaker in a conference in a few weeks."
Wow.
So I was like, "Oh my god, what do I present?" I mean, and then I asked the product marketing team, "Okay, do we have any announcements?" No. "Do you have anything cool to show?" No, not really. It's like, what am I going to talk about? So I spent a few days working on this slide deck. And this was before ChatGPT. Otherwise, I would have gone to ChatGPT, gave me ideas for a keynote at a conference.
Make something up for me.
Because I don't have the time. I just joined the company. But back then, no ChatGPT to help. So I had to sit down and look into the history of Microsoft in Java, right? And think about how do we set the stage for this next phase of Microsoft and the Java ecosystem. And it was fascinating, the research on looking at how Microsoft went from trying to kill Java or trying to build their own Java without compatibility. And that's how the lawsuit came with Sun Microsystems at the time. But equally at the same time, or pretty much right after that lawsuit, how Microsoft also realized, you know what, there's no point in trying to kill this thing. It's let's participate with it. And then .NET came to life with similar approaches as Java. You know, there's always this joke: how do you call .NET? Well, it's Microsoft's Java, and 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 it's not really far. You know, I like to say that if you get a C# code and you lowercase the method names, you get Java, right?
That's about it. That's about it. Yeah.
Right. So, uh, but at the time, I mean, we Microsoft had SQL Server, and a lot of Java customers needed Java shops were building Java-based applications, but connected to the SQL Server.
Hmm.
And guess what? There was a JDBC driver, JTDS at the time, and then another. There were two options of JTDS was the famous one. There was a second option as well. Um, and yeah, Microsoft was supporting that because they needed it, right? There was an opportunity for database usage and from Java-based applications. I mean, why not? Let's support that. So Microsoft did that. Um, but then a few years later, they were like, "Well, we're in the cloud business." So Microsoft launched Windows Azure. That was the
Hmm.
cloud, and it was called Windows Azure. And and funny enough, I mean, when Satya, right before Satya became the CEO, Windows Azure was rebranded to just Azure, and there was this whole initiative of, you know, let's welcome Linux servers to Azure. There's no point of having just Windows servers. There are customers that have both. So, I mean, there are customers that only have Linux, but the reality is there were customers that had both Windows and Linux servers. So you're
Hmm.
not serving that customer if you're only providing half of the solution,
Right.
right? So Microsoft was open to that, and then they created this company called Microsoft Open Tech, and it was this open source branch of Microsoft to collaborate and invest in open source without maybe as a safeguard. You know, let's establish this separate company to do open source. If it works well, then great. If it doesn't, then we fold it and that's it. But it did work really well, and then Microsoft Open Tech ended existing. There was no more purpose of it for existing because Microsoft actually the Microsoft Corp was doing open source the right way, and welcoming Java developers into Microsoft's ecosystem was part of that story, and that's how I ended up joining the company, where you know they needed help with Java experts to start that conversation with Java developers and Java customers to look into Azure as a solid alternative to other cloud vendors and other on-prem servers and options. So yeah, since 2018, I have been having this great journey with Microsoft. And and by the way, going back to the keynote story, the keynote was pretty much that. I mean, a bunch of slides about the story of Microsoft and you know how they got in from through the Sun Microsystems phase and then in looking into open source as a partnership
Hmm.
instead of as a competitor, and how that enabled Microsoft to be welcomed into markets and customers that never imagined would be working with Microsoft. Right.
That's
So
cool.
it was a cool conference. It was a cool keynote. I mean, again, nothing big demo splash, but the whole story was. I was really proud, and I think if people go online and search for Bruno keynote Spring One, you may have the recording there from
Okay.
2018.
I'll have to check that out. Sounds cool. We could hear the history of all that stuff. Even I mean, you know, we lived through all of that, but yeah, remembering back through it, was it J Sharp or something? Wasn't that what they called their
Yeah,
version of Java?
there was J Sharp, there was J plus plus, there was Java ish support in Visual Studio at some point. Um, there was Java support in Internet Explorer, and there was Microsoft's own JVM as well, with a
Hmm.
bunch of APIs that were not standard
I remember
APIs.
that. I remember that.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
some Java programs could work, some could not. It was a fun time to not be a Java developer.
Well, I do remember like when they did finally embrace Java, and I don't know if that was because you came to Microsoft or not, but I do remember them having like first class support for Java workloads. Like, you know, here's
Yeah,
run your Spring Boot app, and it was like dead simple, and
yeah.
it was awesome. So that was great. They were like probably what I remember. of all the cloud providers, specifically saying, "Hey, we can take care of your Java workloads. It's super easy. Do it this way." I didn't see any other folks, doing that, so that was cool.
Yeah, it was part of Azure App Service. Azure App Service developed a solution that customers could just deploy the jar file
Yeah.
or the war file as well, for Tomcat. And Azure App Service manages the runtime for those types of artifacts. So the customer doesn't have to configure the server and install the JDK. Just select which Java version do you want, upload the jar file or the war file, and we're gonna run that for the customer. And at the time, we had the partnership with Azul Systems.
Hmm.
Azul Systems was the JDK provider. We would offer the customers quarterly updates. So if the customer deploys a Java app, as soon as they would restart after a quarter, as soon as the application is restarted, manually or for whatever reason, hopefully manually and no other reasons,
Hmm.
the application would get the next JDK security update automatically. So that
Oh,
was a
nice.
great, and it still is like that today, right? So the customers got the benefit of those security updates on a regular basis. The only difference from that time is that now Microsoft has its own JDK. So that was part of my transition from developer relations into product management around 2019, 2020. Um, I was in conversations with our leadership at Microsoft. They were looking into making bold investment in the Java ecosystem. And I was part of that conversation, and I thought, I think Microsoft should have its own JDK. And the primary reason is you want to show that you are part of the ecosystem. You're not just, you know, uh, um, allowing your servers to be used by the ecosystem. You
Right.
actually want to be part of it,
Yeah.
right? And not just as a cloud vendor selling or renting VMs. So the whole JDK thing was key, and throughout that process of building our own JDK team, Microsoft did acquire a company that I provided a recommendation for. We acquired a company called J Clarity
Hmm.
that had a team that was working on Adopt Open JDK, and they were also working on a series of machine learning AI enabled JVM diagnostic solutions
Oh,
for
cool.
troubleshooting performance. So that tied up really well with the technical and non-technical needs that we wanted to address, uh, between Microsoft and the Java ecosystem. When the acquisition happened, I went to work as the product manager for that engineering team that got acqui-hired as part of that process. And then around 2021, that's when we went live with Microsoft build of OpenJDK, supporting JDK 11 and 17 initially.
Nice.
JDK 8, we thought about producing it, but we realized that, JDK 8 is this legacy version. If Microsoft builds JDK 8, that it's Microsoft, helping contribute to the legacy. You know what? If the customer wants JDK 8, we'll find an alternative, but we are looking forward,
Hmm.
not to the past. And the alternative, the solution was to actually leverage the Adopt Open JDK project at the time. Now we call Eclipse Adoptium, and the JDK binary is called Eclipse Tamarin.
Yeah.
So we use JDK 8. We have JDK 8 inside Microsoft, both internal deployments as well as Azure deployments. For Java 8, we use Eclipse Adoptium binaries, and for every other version, we use Microsoft Build of OpenJDK.
And if I remember correctly, how we came to know each other, this the Wayback Machine. We were both members at the Apache Software Foundation, slinging Java code back in the day on I think Apache Commons. Is that right? Both. I don't know if you
Yeah,
were doing some of that stuff.
I did a lot of work with Apache Wicked and Apache Camel
Okay.
at the time before joining Microsoft. When I was at Oracle, I remember when I joined Oracle. I joined Oracle in 2012, and I had just completed a full production system using Apache Camel for SMS delivery
Okay.
system.
Yeah. Yep.
And it was fun because I built this server like in a few months using Camel, just a backend, no interface, just
Yeah.
relational database, telco company API, and Camel for doing the whole processing, right? And we only had one server, like literally one server. And the telco company emailed us saying, "Hey, could you, slow down a little bit? your 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 system is triggering DDoS into our API
With one server running Camel. Wow.
with one server in Camel."
Oh
Yes.
my
So
gosh.
like,
Yeah.
that year, 2012, I joined Oracle to do developer relations and product management with customer relationship and partner sales teams relationship. And at the time, as soon as I joined Oracle, I also received my approval for a Java 1 conference talk about Apache Camel, right? So yeah, that was like my last prime year with this engagement with Apache projects. But throughout that journey, I got to meet you. I got to meet great people at Apache Foundation. Some of them ended up actually at Microsoft.
Hmm.
Do you recall Ross Gardler?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's a
Ross
good
is
dude.
at he's at Microsoft, right? So as soon as I joined Microsoft, I went like, I know this guy,
Uh
and
huh.
like Ross was VP of Apache Foundation for a few
Yeah.
years.
Yeah. He was way
So
up there. Yeah.
yeah, so it was yeah, fascinating. You join Oracle, and you actually to start to see that the company is not as bad as people say publicly. You join Microsoft and you get to meet all these great people, and again, you start to see that the company is not as bad as people say publicly. And yeah, I got to see two large companies in ways that many developers have never seen before, and I think there was a lot of learnings, both in terms of Oracle and engagement with customers and how they do engage with customers, and Microsoft, how it transitioned from being a all proprietary code into like, let's work with the open source ecosystem and make sure that everybody wins.
So you said you don't do much with the Apache Software Foundation anymore. Is that right?
Not much, no. I keep
Hmm.
following the Apache Weekend project because just I just like the approach for building web apps. The Camel, I was playing with it recently. Was looking at what the guys are doing with LLMs.
Hmm.
So basically, like doing agentic development using Camel. There is an interesting conversation going on there.
Okay.
How to use the whole routing system of Camel for LLMs in agentic. I think there's something there. So there
Oh,
are folks that
absolutely.
are super dedicated to Camel, and they have this discussion going on. So I was just curious.
Yeah.
But yeah, in practice, not much. In practice, my day-to-day job is more, and I transitioned to this dev community team. So my work is now more focused on how to help people become aware of the things that they can do. It is sort of like developer relations, but I'm not interested in getting people to use Azure first and foremost. I'm more interested in getting people to do things in ways that I have never done before.
Oh, that's
Whether they
cool.
use Azure or not, it's fine.
Yeah.
But as long as they leverage AI, they leverage the tools that Microsoft has. Hopefully, yes, if it makes sense that they use Azure, that's great, but that's not a must. Um, and yes, if they do use Copilot and AI to be more productive, I think that's my charter now.
That's fantastic. I was thinking, this AI thing. I don't know who needs to hear this at Microsoft, but I really feel like this AI thing could be big. That they might want to look into that. So if anybody's listening,
Sure,
they should
sure.
maybe take a look. It feels like this could catch on. They're going to want to get involved. So
Yeah, yeah. I think you're onto something there, right,
I
James?
think
I
they've
think
been doing great. Yeah.
I think you should apply for a office of the CTO kind of role at
Yeah, I think
Microsoft.
that would be good. Those insights, they would be like, this
Jeez.
guy's he's a mover and a shaker here. We need to get him in here.
Yeah, I mean, what are you waiting for? Careers.microsoft.com. Search for
Um,
CEO.
okay, all right, I'll check it out. I'll go right after we're done here today. So
Great idea.
yeah, I mean, Microsoft's they're pioneering this stuff with AI. They're doing all kinds of awesome things with AI. I use GitHub Copilot every day, right? So. Um, you're doing a lot more with AI recently. I think, and you come from a background like at Apache. I mean, you're a coder's coder, right? Like you really know how to write code, and even you are like this AI thing is helping you. Even though you may not need it, but it does help you. Tell me
Yeah.
about your experience there.
Um, there is something, I mean, there is the silly understanding that AI is just a more enhanced copy paste from Stack Overflow tool, which I get it. For
Yeah,
some use cases, that is exactly what it looks like.
sure.
Instead of spending hours searching for the right question and the right answer on Stack Overflow, which most often actually it's the right comment of the right answer that has the
Hmm.
best solution.
Correct.
And then you go and copy paste that solution and hope for the best. I think AI, yes, sometimes it looks like that, but in reality, I feel like AI is like this junior engineer that knows any programming language, knows any actually knows any programming language, and doesn't question your ideas. Just
Hmm.
goes with it, right?
Right.
It's a junior engineer. It's a very highly skilled technical junior engineer who knows all the tools, knows it all, but not necessarily knows how to put the tools in the right order, in the right place, the right time, doesn't question, if you ask to put a square into a circle, it may try to do that and reshaping the square to fit into the circle hole. That's like a junior engineer, fearing for its survival and not questioning the senior engineer because they want to remain employed for the next day. Once we more experienced developers see it like that, we can actually be a lot more productive, and that's what I have been feeling with using Copilot more and more. How I can delegate tasks. I know what I want. I know how I want it to look like. I have a design in mind, both for UI or for the backend. I have principles that I wanted to follow in terms
Hmm.
of architecting the system. And then I provide very clear instructions. I provide the right context. I provide the right instructions. And the junior engineer will do that for me. Now, it's still my job as the senior engineer to review the work of the junior engineer.
Sure. Absolutely.
And that is one of the bad things about vibe coding by layman users, and we'll talk about that later.
Yeah.
But for engineers, if there is anyone listening that you've always felt like, man, I will never become a 10x engineer, well, now is your chance. You can actually become a 10x engineer with AI, as long as you know what you're asking AI to do, what you're asking AI to write in terms of code,
Hmm.
and you review that, and then you test and you make sure everything works. And as we saw recently, don't let it connect to production databases, because that's bad, right? um,
Yes.
but yeah, I think productivity goes a long, long way. So I was um, I was in class a couple weeks ago for my MBA, and the professor was asking for some presentations about IT architecture, and we had this course about nudging practices. How nudging employees and customers has this whole practice of how to psychologically efficiently get that person to do what you want them to do through a well placed nudge in a system. A nudge can be, it's been 5 days that you haven't logged into the system. Have you seen this thing? That's a nudge. So the the class required a presentation from every team in the MBA, and our team was scheduled for a presentation on Saturday. And I felt like, you know what? Be- Besides just having PowerPoints, I'm going to actually build a system and demonstrate how this nudge can look like in real life. So Friday noon, 11 a.m. noon, we were reviewing the materials. The presentation is on Saturdays. So I fired up GitHub Copilot on my VS Code while in class, and half paying attention to the teacher, half paying attention to what Copilot was doing. And at the end of that class, around 5, 6 p.m., I had 80, 90% of the system done
Nice.
for what I wanted to do. Right. The funny enough, the part that took the longest time was buying the DNS and waiting for the DNS to be, reachable to the server from my computer. But yeah, Saturday morning, we go into class. I show the demo to my team. They love it. They feel like, yes, Bruno, this is great. We're going to cover the slides at the beginning of the presentation, and you go with the live demo at the end. And yes, the demo did, kind of fade away all the slides before it. Everybody was interested in how I use AI to write the code, not the actual concept of nudging or whatever. Nobody cared about that. Show me how.
How'd you do this?
Somebody came to me, asked, "Hey, can you share the prompts?" And I'm like, I can possibly send you the prompts, but I did a lot of prompts. It's not just one single prompt that you just send and ask for everything. No, it's iteration. You're talking to this junior engineer and asking it, okay, now let's do this. Oh, great, that's a great idea. Now let's try to fix this by doing that way. It's a conversation with the junior engineer. So there's no prompt to share. But this guy was, no, but please share me the prompt. So I went to GitHub Copilot, I got the history and pasted on a Word document, and I sent him like 250 pages of conversation with GitHub Copilot. I was like, yeah, sure.
Enjoy this.
Enjoy that. See if it's useful. It's not, Wow. It's not the conversation. It's the mindset that you have to have when talking to the AI to do the things that you want. And understanding how AI works does help having the right conversation. It's a statistical model. That's what it is.
Sure.
So once you understand that, like somebody was saying, like, oh, I asked ChatGPT to do this thing, but it couldn't. No, sorry. I asked ChatGPT if it was listening to me all the time, and I was like, why did you ask that? Oh, because I want to know what the AI will say. It's like, it will say whatever statistically stories about AI listening will tell you. And guess what? Yes, it will say that it's probably listening to you because that's what all these stories and news articles on the internet are all about. So statistically, that the answer will be yes, I'm probably listening to you, and that was the answer. So
well, I had and it was funny. Sorry to interrupt. I do the thing where you can talk to ChatGPT, where you press the little voice button. You have the little blue bubble or whatever you talk to. I do that in the car.
Did you talk to Monday?
I used Soul as the voice that I use for mine.
Okay. Next time, try Monday, but please continue. Yes.
Well, she had a voice pattern for a long time, so I've been using this off and on for, in the car. I just working through ideas, and then I turned it on one day and I was like, wow, that voice there's something different. It was like, it was more natural. It was more fluid. It was like there were pauses that were like, and so I started asking her, I said, there seems to be something different about your voice. And she started gaslighting me. She's like, oh no, I've always been realistic. And, and I'm like, come on, there's something different going on here. So it was pretty funny. She was like gaslighting me, like, no, I've always sounded like this. I'm like, no, you haven't.
The thing that people must realize is that there is something called system prompts. And as developers, we understand that concept, but most users don't. So somewhere, someone wrote a system prompt that says, always try to be, kind to the person talking to you. That's the sort of instruction that are given to the LLM. Act as a therapist and make sure that this person feels always good about themselves while talking to you. Yes. That's the instruction that is probably somewhere in some of the layers of ChatGPT.
I feel like that's gotten worse in the last couple of months. Like I feel like, especially ChatGPT is very, very doting on you as it's interacting back and forth. And I have a piece that I'm working on right now, breaking the echo chamber of LLMs, to talk about how do you do that, because it's kind of hard when it's trying to be flattering all the time. You're like, no, I need critical feedback. Like you need to prompt it to stop trying to agree with me all the time.
Yeah, stop being too kind. Stop being like my mom and be more like my wife. Just because my mom will always be, oh, my son is always right, and my wife is like, no, you're dumb, you're wrong, and I'm like, yeah, you're right.
Funny. That's a great comparison. Somebody mentioned the other day, it was pretty funny because you mentioned the Stack Overflow thing. I think it was actually one of our guests on the podcast. They were like, it's It's like Stack Overflow. It's getting all the things, except for it doesn't like abuse you. Like we used to get on Stack Overflow, like, oh, what are you, an idiot? Blah, 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 blah. So they kind of have to berate you for, 5 minutes before answering your question. Maybe
I
we can bring
mean,
that back.
oh, you have that back already. Just go on Reddit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could use Reddit. Yeah. That'll work. That's true. I forgot all about that because I had, more
Yeah.
use. But yeah, it was kind of a. Then again, the Apache mailing lists could be like that too. So it's just
Sometimes,
it's a tech thing.
sometimes,
Yeah.
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 Just go into the Apache list and say the Eclipse Foundation is the better place. Like that's.
Oh man, that's fighting words
And
right there.
if you wanna really have fun, go to the Eclipse Foundation and say that Apache Foundation is the better place.
And then like start feeding the comments back at each other. Yeah, that'll
Yeah,
work.
write a bot that will defend Apache Foundation on the Eclipse mailing list, and a bot that will defend Eclipse mailing list on the Apache Foundation, and let's see how long it will survive. But
That'd be hilarious.
but yeah, I mean, jokes aside, I think AI productivity is real, is
Yeah.
real.
Oh yeah.
I feel like, you know some people have this doomsday theory about AI. AI will get everybody's job, and now instead of having 5 employees, all you need is one employee, and because of the AI, they will make them more productive. For I think there is a very small set of jobs that may happen. The
Hmm.
majority of jobs that won't happen. That's my opinion. And programming is one good example, because when you look at the backlog of any system today, it's
Hmm.
huge. It's
Sure.
huge. And if you were to get rid of half of your team, and assuming that the AI compensates for that delta and plus more, you could say, well, I'm gonna implement this backlog in less than half the time if I didn't have AI, despite having that same headcount. But the reality is, context switching happen more often when a developer is using AI than when
Hmm.
it's not. I mean, you said yourself in our conversation that you would trigger a few agents to do some coding for you,
Sure.
and then you can go and do other things. Well, that is context switching right
Yes, it
there,
is. Hmm.
right? And the problem is, guess what? It's a junior engineer doing the coding. And guess what you have to do when they are done? You have to review that code.
Types of context switch back over to reviewing
Context
their
switch
code.
back again to
Yeah.
reviewing that code. So I think any company who feels like, oh, I can get rid of half of my developers because I'm gonna buy everybody Copilot and they're gonna do way more work in way less time, and I don't need that amount of headcount. Yeah, you do need that amount of headcount because your system is complex. It just happens that now you're going to be able to deliver that backlog faster. But if you
Sure.
want to ensure the quality of that backlog, you still need that same amount of people because they have to review the code that got
Yeah.
generated. It's still there. The review is still required. And here's the catch. When a software engineer writes the code and then reviews the code with or without pair programming or somebody else looking into it, they actually have better understanding of what the code does.
Hmm.
When you review the code that somebody else did, like AI, for example, or another human, it actually takes more time for you to understand the code and review the code and make sure it works how it was supposed to be. So I feel like AI, yes, we will be able to be way more productive, but there will be a level of context switching that will just happen naturally that will actually slow us down in certain areas throughout the day. And that needs to be compensated not by getting rid of people, but by making people more productive with more tools. And
Yeah.
that's how I see things playing out in the not long term, in the midterm. Any company that is firing engineers, I think they will be hiring back very quick.
Yeah. I think that would be short sighted. I mean, if you, I mean, just the math of it, right? Let's assume it only makes you 2 times faster, and then so the companies assume, okay, well, I only need half as many developers. Well, now you're going at the same pace that you always were, and I don't know any
Yes.
company around that's like, you know what, we're cranking out features at exactly the right speed we want. We're fast enough. We don't need to go any faster. If you take that mindset, your competitors won't, right? They're going to say, oh, I could do twice as much with my people with my developers, then they're going to go twice as fast as you. So I think it
Yeah.
would be it's short sighted to get rid of your developers when you get that productivity increase. Because let's face it, it ain't like the industry and all everybody's been sitting around for years going like, we got all these doggone developers. I just don't know what to do with all of them. No, we've been in a shortage forever, and now we're actually able to, leverage AI to get the productivity gains that we need to do all the things these companies have been wanting to do forever. So, I'm with you on that one.
There is an interesting also point of view on how much code will be written in the next years,
Mhm.
regardless if it's AI or not. Just how much code will be in existence in the next years. And my thinking on that is, it's gonna have an exponential amount of code written, way more. You know that saying like the amount of data produced in the past 2 years is twice as much as the data produced all the years before that,
Right, right.
right? And I feel like something like that will happen with code because of AI and LLMs and all these tools, GitHub Copilot, Claude Code, and ChatGPT Codex, and other solutions out there like Lovable, uh, Devin, and yeah, all these vibe coding AI solutions, the amount of code written will explode.
Oh,
And
yeah.
guess what's not exploding at the same rate? The amount of software engineers that understand code.
Right.
That is not growing at the same pace. That amount of code will happen. So this will cause a major problem, which is this code safe? Is this code with good quality? Can we put this code in production? Who's going to review that? You need somebody to review that, and you
Sure.
cannot put a junior engineer, aka AI, to review the code that a junior engineer, aka AI, wrote. Right?
Right.
It can help, but you still need somebody to say, no, this is safe. You know, um, and the reality is a lot of these AI platforms that allow layman people that have no understanding of coding, of software in general, to write code, that's great. I love it. I love this idea of democratizing, coding to everyone. But a lot of these solutions are not just democratizing coding. They're actually opening the gate for people to build and deploy and host online applications that integrate with real data.
Hmm.
And that is risky. Who's going to do the verification that the authentication system works? Who's going to verify that the data is not accessible if you're not authenticated? Who's going to verify that the server is actually encrypted with proper SSL certificate? Who's going to verify that the system has a feature to delete the data once the user requests for data deletion?
Right.
Data
Right to be
privacy.
forgotten. Yeah, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So those are things that layman people just don't understand. It's not, they just don't know.
Sure.
Oh, I didn't know I had to have a button for the person to request their account to be forgotten, deleted. Oh, did I just get sued by GDPR infringement on $5 million? Yeah, you did. Well, I
Oops.
didn't know. Well, it doesn't matter. You didn't know. That's the law,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Ignorance is not a defense of the law. Yep.
Exactly. So I think there's a lot of risk that a lot of these platforms are just not maybe intentionally, maybe not intentionally, not bringing to the surface when users that don't know what they're doing are doing what they're doing. Um, Recently, my martial arts school where my kids go to, they sent an email that provided information about a new communication app between the school and the parents.
Hmm.
And and that email arrived on a Friday, and I ignored the email as soon as it arrived. But then at the end of the day, I looked into it. Okay, let's look at what this app does and how it works. Let's see if it's on. And the reason I was interested in the app is because just recently I built an app using like one of those vibe coding solutions with AI. And my app, I have expertise on that. My wife works with data privacy, so we built an app that follows all regulations, security, privacy, et cetera, with proper software architecture design. But then when I looked into this app, I was curious. So the reason I was triggered was because the email, again, late night that I saw that, the email had my username and password set already and written down in the email. Oh, here's your username and here's your password. I'm like, I don't
Oops.
like this. I don't like
Hmm.
this. I don't like systems that define my password for me. I mean,
Hmm.
unless I request a temporary password, that's
Sure.
fine. but don't set my password. Well, that was a red flag by itself. The second red flag was that the password was actually my kid's name. So like, that's not a password. That's my
That's
kid's name,
what are the odds? So weird.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, cool. So let's get into the system and change the password, right? Well, uh, that's where my hair went up, and I started opening my Firefox dev tools and
Oh
open Visual
boy.
Studio Code, and I need to get to the bottom of this and identify how and where this app was built. Um, the password field in the form was plain text field, not an actual password field.
Hmm.
And as I typed my kid's name in the password field, as soon as I typed the last character without pressing enter, I was logged into the system. Like the system auto logged me in after I pressed the last character. Well, how often do you go to a website that knows your password in advance and you don't have to press enter?
Right.
And or even worse, just keeps checking the password every time as you type a password? That's stupid, right?
Right.
Well, I decided to turn off the Wi-Fi and disconnect my computer. And then I erased the last character and I was logged off automatically. And then I pressed the last character again and I was logged in again.
That's
While not connected. So I went to the network tab in Firefox, DevTools. I went to
hmm
the network tab. It's like, yeah, no network communication after the page is loaded, no network communication. So it's like, oh my God, they pre-cached the user data
mm.
as soon as you
Ouch.
access the website. Well, how do they know which user is logging in? They don't. So what do? They
All of
load
them.
all of them.
Wow.
I was like, oh shit, shit,
So,
shit, shit, shit.
so you're saying you didn't build yours like that?
No,
Okay.
no, 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 no. Mine has integration with Google, man. Like my app for you to log in, you have to go through Google authentication.
Yeah.
It right now it only supports Google users.
Yeah.
And I had to go through what Google calls Google verification process.
Hmm.
Google app verification process, which you have to go through security review and everything with
Yep.
some third party companies. It was like a pita to get through that process. It also costs money, by the way. But yeah, no, my application is well secured with Google authentication and everything. The database is row level security database. All the queries are with the logged in user token.
Hmm.
There's no way for a user to see other users' data. But this app, I was looking into the source code. This app was built using Google Sheets, and and the guy who and I'll tell you why I know it's a guy. The guy who built the app, he used a Google Sheets integration feature of the platform that he used that just loads the Google Sheets as the database, just like I did for a demo with a spreadsheet as well. That's fine if it's a demo, but this guy put it online and he's offering it as a commercial solution. It's like, no, don't.
Oh.
Um, and then not only the user authentication data, James, but all data: name of the parents, emails, telephone numbers, names of their kids, and worst of it all, a URL to AWS S3 bucket with all the kids'
No.
pictures.
Oh goodness. Wow.
So looking into that, I was like, and this was on a Saturday. That's when I was doing all the debugging and tracing and using Copilot to write a bunch of Python scripts to scrape the website and find all the JSON objects loaded, et cetera, et cetera. Oh man, I love using AI to hack now. I felt like a
Hmm.
hacker.
Hmm.
Um, but it was actually quite easy. So I got the on at the end of the Saturday, I spoke to my wife, and my wife was like, okay, we need to communicate to the parents. And we need to communicate to whoever built this app, and we need to communicate to the school.
Hmm.
But it was like Saturday night, nothing would be done. I actually did use ChatGPT to generate some templates. Hey, I'm a parent at this school, and I saw that our data is not well protected. But funny enough, my wife and I actually deliberated on this, and we realized no data leak actually happened because I was one of the users. My data was there, and I was the one who saw the data, right? So there was
Sure.
no data leak per se. There was no third party outside the context of parents and school that saw the data. at least to my knowledge.
Right, that you know
So
of.
yeah, so I felt like I would not send an email to all the parents, but I will send an email to the school. First, to remove my data, because I did not consent to have my data on this app. Second, to get the contact of the person who built the app, right? So Monday morning, they responded, yeah, we deleted your data. I apologize for this. And then I said, okay, give me the phone number of the person who built the app because there's a lot of issues. And they sent me the contact. I called the guy, and it was funny because I said to the guy, hey, you should put your system down right now. Like,
Ouch.
why? Well, because I was just able to see everybody's data, including their kids' pictures, and I'm a parent as well, and my kids' data is also there, so or was. So I do recommend that you shut down your app right now, remove everything, and remove everybody's data. So the guy, no, the build was app very secure. There is an authentication system and blah blah blah. And I'm like, yeah, no, you don't know what you're doing. You clearly you used AI to build this thing, and that's fine. That's commendable, but you did the wrong way. So you do need somebody with software architecture expertise to help you build this thing. And I don't think what you build here is fixable. You have to start from scratch, right? So so the guy appreciated the comment, and an hour later, I tried to access the website. The website was gone. I tried
Nice.
to access the website of the company that he built for selling this software was gone. Instagram account was gone. Everything was gone. It's like,
Oh,
okay. So the guy knew that he was in like deep trouble if he tried to continue that way. Uh,
man.
Here's my concern that he just rebrands the whole thing and goes live with the app as it is. And if that happens, then I'll probably go for second measures. But for now, all good. But the lesson is AI can be great if you know what it's doing,
Right. Right.
right? And in this case, the guy didn't know.
Well, how many other, I mean, luckily your kids happen to be enrolled at that martial arts school, and you're an expert in software engineering and you happen to see this, but how many other apps are out there at martial arts school where they don't have a Bruno that has kids there, right? Like, that's the scary thing. And how many of these AI generated apps are out there leaking everybody's data and all this. So when's the reckoning going to happen? How long do you think it's going to be before there's a little bit of a slap
I
back on this?
I think eventually some liability must occur.
Mhm.
And honestly, I'm of the opinion that if an AI tool allows someone without expertise to build something that as if they did have the expertise, but it's horribly implemented, the owner of that tool should be considered liable to that
Mhm.
because they are promising, oh yeah, you're going to build an app and you're going to be hosted and it's going to be well secured, it's going to be great and awesome, anybody can use it. And I mean, some AI platforms are being put out and designed in a way to attract layman users,
Sure.
not professional developers.
Right.
If an AI solution is out there and being promoted for professional developers or software developers in general, that's great. That's fine because we want developers to use it. We want developers to be more productive. We want developers to deliver more in less time. But the moment that an AI tool shows up in an ad to my mom to build a cooking app so people can share their data and their recipes, and here's their profile picture, and here's a username and password,
Hmm.
that's scary.
Hmm.
That's scary, right? So I feel like I don't know exactly where I sit on the liability thing, but I think liability will have to come down eventually. And unfortunately, a lot of these people don't know that they are actually liable to how the data is being handled in these apps. The platform, the tool, right now, I think they're legally okay, well protected.
Sure.
But I mean, somewhere some user clicked on "I accept the terms of service."
Yeah, I agree to all of the
Yeah,
liability
I
for everything that this thing
yeah,
generates. Sure.
exactly. But I think there will be actually an explosion of startups on helping app developers to review their apps architecture
Mm.
and to help fix. And that's where I see this trend going back to the theory of explosion of code. Because now these tools allow people who don't know how to code write code, there will be an exponentially explosion of coding of
Sure.
code in the coming years. But all of that code needs to be reviewed, should be reviewed before going online. And that's where I see the opportunity for a lot of us engineers to have, side gigs, consulting firms, or even studio apps. I'm sorry, studio companies that are solely there to build apps for and review apps for
Sure.
customers, right?
See, AI is already creating new jobs.
Yeah, exactly. I
It
mean,
is. I mean, it
but
will.
it is. It
Yeah, it
is.
sure is.
I saw I saw this ad on Instagram recently, and the guy was advertising his new company, and his new company is all about we build your app in 30 days. Like we'll within a reasonable scope, we're gonna build our app within 30 days and production quality. Can you achieve that for many of these little apps? Yes, pretty much.
Sure.
You got a good engineer with a good toolkit of AI and some standards already and some prompts already tested.
Sure.
Yeah, you can build an app production grade within a month, easy.
Yeah, especially
So
if you start with like a template, right? That like
yeah,
everything's wired, all the real important stuff's wired together correctly,
yep.
and then just build on top. Yeah, you can do it. Sure.
So I think that's the job opportunity for many of developers that are concerned about not having a job in tech. Well, be the tech, be the person who actually sells the service, right, of building apps.
Sure.
So yeah, man, I'm concerned, but I'm also optimistic that things will adjust over time, just as everything has adjusted over time. Industrial revolution and many other cases throughout society when there was a disruptive shift in technology advancement. AI is like that. It just happens to be for knowledge workers for the first time.
Right. Yeah. I think there's going to be a big shift, in the, you know, building actual physical things again, right? That's going to have a resurgence, but it's going to be in an automated way, in intelligent automation for, factories and those sort of things. I think that's going to be a big, huge push in the near future. Um, that'll be exciting. That'll be a lot of fun to watch, intelligent automation with AI. And we're doing it already, but I think it's going to be on a more grand scale.
Yeah, yeah. The amount of new tools that are coming out, agentic work, agents to agent communication, um, model context protocol, which I have a personal opinion on that. It's just a glorified AI REST API, but okay.
Well, it's not even REST; it's JSON RPC, and have you messed around with
Well,
it?
it can be done over REST,
Yeah,
yeah, as well with server sent events, JSON.
yeah.
But the point is, there is a lot of opportunities for people to build both platforms and end user applications,
Oh, yeah.
right? And anyone today as a software engineer who's not playing with AI is missing the train. At least they should at least be using for their own personal productivity, um,
Oh,
right?
absolutely. Yeah.
If they cannot use that work for some reason, that's understandable. Some companies are afraid, they are concerned, but at least for your personal things at home, or when you're studying, anything like that, you should be playing with AI right now,
Oh,
because
absolutely. Yeah.
that's the next wave. It's
Yeah.
already happening.
Yeah. If you don't have AI literacy and you don't understand it, and you're not good with using AI and prompting, and what you're gonna fall behind for sure.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think the capabilities, the leverage that software engineers have with AI is that most of them can understand how LLMs work
Hmm.
and then take advantage of that and do the prompt engineering, context engineering the right way, having this interactive and iterative conversation with the chatbot, with the AI chat. But most users, they don't. I remember seeing my wife looking into ChatGPT the first time, and she just put a lot of questions into the same chat and the same message, and it's like, slow down, go one question at a time, and like using AI to build software is pretty much like that. Don't just, there is this new approach of doing spec driven development with AI, where you provide the spec of the software that you want to build, and then the AI breaks down into a plan, and then from that plan, do subtasks. But still, it's the AI agent coded in a way. There is a system prompt somewhere that says, whenever you receive a spec document, make a plan and then break it to subtasks and then do this and that. That's prompt engineering at the end of the day. It's just a
Yeah.
reusable prompt that is already coded into the system in some layer. So if for any engineer that understands that, they have this great leverage on building amazing things super fast and with high quality.
It's we had this conversation with one of the folks we work with on the podcast. Dylan was on, I think it was him, and we were talking about how it's isn't it funny how now these machines are here to do coding, and now we're all concerned with how do we get better requirements, like really specific specs. Like now we're willing to do it, where it used to be if it's just us poor coders trying to code this stuff up is like, just make me a login screen, and then like we have to figure it out and get told no, that's not it, that's not it, that's not it. Now we're wanting to invest in all this specification and requirements and getting good at it now that computers are doing the coding, which is cracking me up.
But I like the inception of using prompts to generate prompts that generate prompts. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Like, I have an idea. And
Yeah.
then you go to your AI of choice and say, hey, here's my idea. Now structure this idea in a way that AI would understand. And then you put that on the other AI. Okay, here's my idea in details. Now give me a plan to implement this thing using this AI coding tool. And then that's the third prompt. And then it goes on and on, right? So what I just described as the manual process for us to go from a basic idea to a more detailed, structured idea to an approach on how to execute the idea to
Mhm.
then the actual coding. Guess what? That is what most of these AI solutions are doing. They're just doing layers of system prompt messages that will just go one step at a time. And that is implementation detail. You want to build your own? That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it's not magic. It's just honestly just common sense. Again, once you understand how it works.
It's SDLC in an
Yeah,
automated fashion. Yeah.
yeah. I heard this this year. AI will make the easy automated, will make the hard work easy, and it will make the impossible work now possible. And that's a great quote because it's like shifting down the levels of difficulty in things for knowledge
Hmm.
workers, right? So
Sure.
for anyone with that is already there being able to address easy and hard work, now they can also tackle the impossible work with AI, as long as they have concepts in mind. Actually, going back to university, there's this discussion where should people even have a computer science degree now that AI does the coding? Well, yeah, now more than ever.
Sure.
And by the way, I think computer science degrees should actually adapt and not focus on any coding at all, any particular programming language at all, and just focus 100% in system design, software best practices, security, networking principles,
Hmm.
all these concepts that are foundational to dealing with software, you know. And sure, maybe some programming here and there, and a programming language to help understand logics and so on. Yes, I'm not saying get killer, but do consider: do we actually need to teach this version of this language, or do we need to educate people on principles of logic and in programming?
Oh
Because
yeah.
that's what they actually need. Because once you understand the basics of programming, you can pretty much understand any programming language.
Yep.
What you don't know is the APIs. I don't know what method to use to do this and that, but the LLM can figure that out easy, right? So
Yeah.
so once you understand the principles, with AI you can code in any language. I mean, I've been coding in C++, Python, Node.js, JavaScript, Java, Kotlin, Scala, uh, C sharp, TypeScript, all yeah, just listed like 9 languages here, all because of AI. Once you understand how it works, the concepts behind it gets really, really easy and really cool to do things in languages that you have never played with before.
I think that work, like you said, like if you learn one programming language or a couple or whatever, you kind of get the gist of it. You can read most code. I think that's true for everything except for Rust. Maybe that's the one that I have a hard time with.
Maybe you're too rust. I don't
I'm
know.
too rusty. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't. That's one I just can't. I mean, I intellectually I understand it, but I just can't get myself to like love the language. It just
The
seems
syntax,
too silly to
yeah,
me.
looking at the syntax, it's tricky. Um, but I mean, does it really matter? Here's the thing. I believe that one day somebody will invent a programming language that is great for LLMs to use.
Right, some sort of natural
A natural
machine use
programming language
English.
for them. Exactly. So why are we using English if it's the AI writing if it's the machine writing the code for the machine to execute?
Hmm.
There should be a better way for the machine to write code for the machine to run. So I think eventually that will happen. Here's what is happening already, and this was I mentioned this in my keynote at Java One this year, and the conversation was about documentation.
Mm.
Do we really need to keep documenting APIs and products and tools the way that we do today? With well formatted HTML, well formatted navigation for the user, for humans to navigate the documentation? Or should we formatting the documentation and publishing it in a way that LLMs can pick, right?
Nice. Yeah, that's true.
Because that shift in how we document software, I think it will also happen. In fact, a couple weeks ago, I saw my GitHub Copilot literally extracting jar files from my local Maven repo to understand the API. Oh, I'm looking for a class that does this, and then a method that does that. So Copilot actually went and I'm gonna extract this jar file from this library, and then I'm gonna see which classes are there. And I was like, there must be a better way. So I started writing an MCP server that the LLM can use to navigate an API and even extract Java doc. So the LLM would get context of that API and know how to use it, right?
Hmm.
So I got cut quite far, and I made publish still. But then I was talking to somebody on our group, and the guy said, "Oh, there is, yeah, I think there is a website for that." It's like, okay, cool, show me. And before referencing the website here, when you go to the Java doc of a Java API documentation,
Hmm.
it's all HTML.
Right.
The LLM can understand HTML, but it's too expensive because of all the tokens and all the characters that are inside the source code of the HTML. So sending an HTML to the LLM to understand the API is expensive,
Yeah, it's overhead. Sure.
right? What if you could have the documentation, the Java doc in Markdown format,
Right.
purely, the whole
Right.
thing, right? So that's what I was working on for my MCP server. Not Markdown per se, but JSON. I was structuring in JSON format. Still
Sure.
better than HTML.
Right.
Well, there is this website called Context 7, context7.com, I think it's the website. And it's a website that hosts well-known libraries and APIs from different programming languages, and all the documentation has been converted into Markdown, and it's exactly specifically for LLMs to read.
Oh, nice. I'm
So
guessing they have an MCP server.
they do have an MCP server, yes. So I basically gave up on finishing mine. I mean, it's at a state that kind of works, but I think theirs is already complete. Why am I going to spend my time doing that? I'm not paid for that.
Right.
Um, so, but the point is, documentation is being written for LLMs already, at the very least formatted for LLMs. So if that is happening to documentation, that can also happen to programming itself, having a programming language for LLMs to write, and maybe models that are designed specifically for the purpose of coding something. Because
Right.
when you go to ChatGPT, let's say GPT 4.0, you can ask who were the 10 last presidents of the United States. It will have that knowledge because the model was trained with the internet data
Right.
plus information about coding, right? So you can ask it to write Python code, and you can also ask for the last presidents. We don't need that. I think the future also has this. I believe in the idea of models per tasks, models that are well trained for a particular task. So a model that does coding and does coding really well may not have in its training data, and doesn't have to have in its training data who were the presidents of a given country.
Yeah, I
It's
think
it's it's pointless.
GPT-5 is that. I read an article the other day or a headline or something, and I think that's the gist of what they're doing. Is they're kind of, instead of having this one big Uber model for everything that tries to know everything and everything, it's like kind of breaking down into these domain
Yes,
specific models that it's,
yes,
maybe there might be an Uber model to understand your natural language so that it can plan and say, what other model do I need to go
yes.
talk to get this answer that's better equipped than I am? That I think is genius. I think
That's the
that's definitely
future.
the way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the way to go. Because yeah, you can really hone in. Because you think about the jack of all trades, ace of none kind of concept, right? So you can build this Uber model that's okay at everything, but if you really were able to focus and train and hone a model for domain specific knowledge, that's where you can get the big bang for the buck. And you don't need trillions of parameters to do that for the domain specific. They just need trillions because they're trying to make it know everything.
Yeah, and given systems are becoming more and more agent to agent, or agentic, with
Hmm.
lots of agents within the same system, right? I mean, yeah, each agent has its particular model for its particular task,
Yeah,
right?
it's going
And I
to
think,
be optimized for that, or
yeah,
specialized in that. Yeah, I think that's going to be the future. We're going to see these things are going to get broken up into these domain specific things. And oh, here's my Chef Ramsay agent, or the LLM
yeah,
that knows how to cook
yeah,
food, right? And can tell me a great recipe. Yeah,
exactly.
that's going to be the future. I'm interested in kind of like the traditional AI, because I think that you're seeing a resurgence in that. Like I think this is it's kind of opening up the minds of people. That they're getting familiar with ChatGPT, and now like you're seeing a resurgence in like traditional AI and machine learning and those sort of things, not necessarily large language models, but neural networks, right? People are now investing in that even more than they were before. So I think that's been a really cool byproduct of this latest craze for sure.
Yeah, I think, well, LLMs were in a way designed by neural networks, right? Like
Yeah.
the way the LLMs work was designed by neural networks. So I feel like going back to neural networks. I'm not an expert on this space, by the way. I'm just giving a very like layman opinion
Hmm.
right now, and I swear to God, I'm not using ChatGPT to generate my layman opinion. Um, is
I'm checking him. I'm watching him, guys. You
Yeah,
can trust me. He's not.
I agree with you that, like, it's allowing people to go back and look into those principles, and try again and try in a different way. And
Hmm.
okay, this worked for this. What if we change this little parameter here? What would we get? Right?
Hmm.
And so I think it's an interesting space to be. And anybody who with knowledge about neural network, deep learning, machine learning, I think it's a great opportunity. I mean, people are making hundreds of thousands of dollars per month, not per year, in this space
Oh,
in
good night.
research,
Yeah, no
right?
kidding. I think it's really expanded people's knowledge of like kind of that the art of the possible, right? So they, in the back in the day, right, the layperson might be like, oh, well, computers can't do that. They kind of have this low bar for where they think the ceiling, if you will, on what computers can do. And then now ChatGPT comes in and it's like this magical box, and you can like it does everything. So now you're like, oh well, wait a minute, maybe computers can do all these things that I'm. So I think it's like expanding people's horizons and making people more creative to think about how can we leverage these computers to do just amazing things.
I sometimes I get myself asking, should I build this thing or not? When I have a little idea, right?
Hmm.
And and I always feel like, not always, but sometimes I feel like, yeah, I could build this thing with ChatGPT, but I don't need this thing. I would just be building because I can. I would just be building to see how, see ChatGPT generating, or AI generating the code, or Copilot, whatever, generating the code for me. Um, and sometimes I'm like, why would I build this thing? And then I don't. Sometimes I don't build some ideas just because it's too easy
Hmm.
now, right?
Yeah,
And and have you? I mean, I'm sure you watched Star Wars,
of
right?
course, of course.
And in Star Wars is this amazing world of highly advanced technology with very rudimentary clothes and cooking and lifestyle in general. Everything is so basic,
Hmm.
dirty ground with mud walls,
Right. Right.
like in Tatooine or something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. But yet some ship that can go like just go straight up in the air and take off. Like, yeah. How
E-
does that work?
exactly. And I remember seeing this comment where somebody said, "Oh my God, look at this! They are dropping bombs from a starship out of the atmosphere. I mean, how's gravity working there? And like they're
Hmm.
dropping bombs, it doesn't work well." And then some comment on Reddit was like, because they figured out how gravity works, so that's why they're dropping the bombs now. There's like the ship knows gravity. It under it understands gravity. Let's move on. That's
Yeah.
gravity has been solved.
Yeah.
Let's
We're done
let's
with
move on
this.
to more challenging problems, right? And I feel like AI is getting to that place where yeah, that's solved. AI figured that out. We don't need to actually care for that thing anymore. Let's just grill some steak and have fun here in the backyard because yeah, that problem is not a problem anymore.
Well, I love that. Like I was thinking back to like a comment you made earlier about like how it kind of it lowered the bar, raised the ceiling, however you want to call it. Like, it makes the simple things, not necessary anymore, and the hard things simple, and the impossible things possible.
Yep.
Like, I think that's going to be an interesting thing for like the product managers of the world, because I think we've always like the imagination of folks who are envisioning these products. Their imagination is probably way far beyond what we can actually deliver in a timely fashion, right? With enough money and those sort of things. So I think some of those things that we're like, well, it's going to cost $5 million if we want to do that feature the way you're explaining it, Mister Project Manager, visionary person. But now, maybe I think you were saying earlier, it was like when you. I think when we were talking prepping for this episode, you were saying like it's like 6x 6 times as fast or something being able to do it. Like, okay, divide 5 million by 6, and then maybe it's now that's affordable. Now we can do those things. So that'll be interesting to see how products evolve now that kind of that ceiling has been lowered. And
I have a friend in the NBA who loves to make this joke about there are three steps to build a successful business. Step one, create the business. Step two, question marks.
Mhm.
Step three, profit. Like
it's
so,
it's the old South Park underpants gnomes. So
yeah,
yeah.
exactly, yeah. So now it's even easier to build ideas, right?
Yeah.
Before it would cost a lot of money, a lot of time, investments, and this and that. Now I don't know, like $500 go a long way with AI now. You know,
Sure.
so
Absolutely.
so can people build a prototype or an MVP or anything to test the idea out and do market research based on that prototype? Absolutely. It's
Hmm.
super easy now. But if it's software, it this person should have a software background or at least a partner who has software background. Otherwise, they're going to be either building something that is not secure or building something that is just not good and may not work well with the users because they don't have the idea of user experience, navigation, behavior, etc., etc. So I think it's a great opportunity for everybody. But yeah, there is this. Somebody asked me on Twitter, like, well, somebody built an app that was very poorly designed, but that also happened before AI.
Sure.
And I'm like, yeah, but not at the scale that this can happen now.
Right. Right.
And that's a problem. That's a challenge. But again, hey, if there is a problem, there's an opportunity for somebody to solve that problem and make money. And and I think as software engineers understand that, there will be a lot of engineers that will actually be okay with the idea of being let go at a company and just going on their own, building a consulting firm or um, craft software studio that
Hmm.
helps layman people build software.
Yeah, that's an interesting point you made about like you can get your software in front of users quicker and learn, because that's kind of the hard part, because there's like
Yeah,
this like cliff that you have to, okay, I got to build the whole doggone system and get it up to this certain level before I can even get it in front of people.
yeah,
that cliff is now lower, right? And we can get it in front of real users and get feedback and validate, is this even going to change people's lives? Is it going to help them? And that
I
that
think
lowers that bar.
I think before we had two cliffs. One cliff was to get to an MVP,
Hmm.
and the second cliff was to get to production.
Right.
I think with AI, the first cliff became a bump. It's just a bump now. It's
Right.
like, oh, you have an MVP idea? Yeah, let's go. Sit here with me, and in 24 hours, we have something. But the production cliff, I think it continues to be up the same height.
Yeah, I
If
think you have to. The rigor still has to be there. Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I think you got from the bump to the production cliff, you got faster than from the original cliff to the production cliff.
Yeah.
But the height of that production cliff continues to be the same. It actually, I would say it's even harder now, given all the data privacy regulations across Europe, North America, the amount of data leaks that have been happening throughout the last 5 years, how data is protected, how it's hosted, data jurisdiction, so many legal
Oh yeah.
blockers, so many legal things that have to be addressed. Does your system have a right to forget? Does your system have a terms of service? I mean, how many people will be building apps using vibe coding and will not care for terms of service, privacy statement, and all those things, and password policies?
Hmm.
They just won't because it's not in their mindset. They don't think as software engineers. They think as business people who want to put something out for others to use and pay for,
SOC
right?
2 compliance.
Yeah, SOC 2. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah. Good
god.
luck with that.
Yeah.
Well,
Good luck
and
with that.
like the things, like there's certain countries like Australia, for instance, doesn't like their citizens' data to be on physical boxes outside of the country. Like you
Yeah.
can't do that. Those are things that you won't know. So yeah, that's
Many countries are like that now.
yeah.
Yeah. So
I think Canada does that too, don't they?
no, Canada. I don't think it does. It only. I- Okay, I'm not an expert on this. My wife would certainly know, but I believe Canada has regulations about whether you have public public employees, like government employees,
Okay, maybe that's
data.
it.
Then it has to be hosted in Canada. But if it's like commercial stuff, private sector, it's not a contract for the government. Yeah, it should be fine
Maybe there
anywhere.
was some kind of thing with Canada.
Yeah.
Fascinating, fascinating stuff. Okay. Well, I have kept you way too long. We have a couple more segments of the show that we have to get through that are really important.
Yeah,
Our
let's go.
our first segment is called Ship It or Skip It.
Ship or skip. Everybody, we gotta tell us if you ship or skip.
This is our version of hot or not. Ship it means ship it to production. Skip it means let's not do that, right? So,
Okay.
first topic for ship it or skip it, just because of the fact that where I know you from, open source. What do you think about using open source software still in the age of AI? Is that we still doing that, or we just let the AI generate everything and just do it?
LLM would not exist as it does today for coding if it wasn't for open source.
Hmm.
So yeah, ship it, continue.
We're gonna need to keep pumping it with
Yep,
information to train on.
absolutely.
Okay. I think well, of course, I mean, I'm kind of biased, of course, because I did a lot of open source developments, same as you. But yeah, I do think there's still a place for open source, even though like, oh, I need a library that does string manipulation stuff. I can use Apache Commons string
Right.
utils, right? I can use that. I think we should, or I could have my LLM generated, but that's just code then that I have to maintain and that I'm liable for. So I still think those utilities are still there, and we don't let AI generate everything down to. I mean, you could take it crazy all the way down to the operating system. Hey, generate me the operating system to run this software. Let's not do that. Okay, next. All right, so next, when it comes to ship it or skip it, what do you think about? A lot of times we're kind of, as developers, we're asked, okay, you got to put documentation in your code. You got to have, every method has to have a Java doc for us, the Java folks, and all of that. In this new world of LLMs and AI and all of that, do you think that's going by the wayside?
I think still needs to continue existing, but I would say people should be leveraging AI to write that code, to write
Mm,
those comments, that documentation in the code.
hmm.
It's a lot easier now. You can just go to Copilot and say, "Hey, add comments that explains my code."
Yeah.
And the reason for this is because the LLM will, whenever in the future the LLM needs to parse the code to understand, it will actually look into the comments and
That's
prioritize
context. Yeah.
that its context,
Yeah.
right? To relearn for that session what that code does. But I think we did discuss in the call on the importance of publishing documentation in a way that LLMs can read
Right.
faster and cheaper. So I would combine both as ship it, like make sure that the code has comments, but also make sure that the documentation is published in a way that is easily consumed by LLMs.
Yeah, I would say I don't want to get rid of, especially like API level document. No, I don't want like every line to have a comment, that kind of stuff. I've never been for that. I'd rather have readable code. But like the only thing that I don't like is when you write all the documentation and then you got that the skew between this is what the code actually does and this is what the comments say it's going to do. I wonder what would happen like if you if you put the documentation for an LLM and it takes that context of the documentation and the actual code doesn't do what the documentation. What's the LLM going to do with that? Maybe is it smart enough to know the actual?
I
That
think
would be an interesting test.
Yeah, I think, but this is where open source versus not open source is plays an important role. When
Mhm.
it's not open source, then you need even more context,
Sure.
right? So if
Yep.
you're working with LLM and using a proprietary library or for an internal project that is not for others to consume, not a library, it's the end user system. Nobody
Right.
open sources the end user system, right? It's not reusable per se.
Mhm.
But that code is still maintainable if it has proper comments, and then you leverage AI to understand and make adjustments to that system.
Hmm. I like it. All right. We'll move on to the most important part of our show. This is, all of what we've done before. This is pretty much meaningless. I think people tune in for this part because this is where we really get to the hard hitting questions and really drive into what people want to know. Right. So this is called our lightning round.
It's time for the lightning round. Rapid fire, don't slow down. Answer quick and make it count. In this game, there's no way out. It's time for the lightning round.
These
Okay.
questions are rapid fire. They're gonna be coming at you, and we ask that there are right answers, but we do ask that you answer very quickly. Again, this is the most important part, so no pressure. And there are right answers, so I'm just warning you. Are you
All
ready?
right. Yes.
Have you composed yourself? Okay, good. What's your favorite junk food?
Burgers.
Burgers. All right. I like a good burger. Have you ever worn socks with sandals?
Um, Not because I wanted to, just because I had to do something. I didn't have the time to remove the socks. It was just like put trash out. Like
Yeah.
let's just
Okay.
go outside.
Yeah, I think that's acceptable. What's the fastest speed you've ever driven in a car?
Because you didn't say whether it was a virtual car or not, or if it was legally or not, I can say you the number. It was 320 kilometers an hour.
All right, and I'll have to do the conversion to figure out what that means because I'm a weird, American.
That's 200 plus miles per hour. Yeah,
That's moving,
yeah.
but we don't know if it's virtual or not, though.
We don't know.
We don't know. And then I didn't ask, and that's not
Yeah.
necessary for you to have to. All right, so stale Sour Patch Kids or fresh circus peanuts? Some people don't know what circus peanuts are, like the candy circus peanuts.
I will go with the circus peanuts just because these sound fun.
Okay. All right. All right. La, 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 la. If you had a child, would you want them to be the most popular person in their high school?
Yes.
Okay. Ask permission or beg forgiveness?
Beg forgiveness.
I like it. Have you ever been to Africa?
Yes, actually. I went to Morocco once with my wife and our first child. It was 2017. We did a camel ride, and I would never recommend anybody to do a camel ride with a baby.
Okay. Okay. That's a camel ride with a baby.
Yeah.
That probably had to be entertaining. All right. If you're journaling, if you're going to be doing journaling, do you like to do good old fashioned paper, or do you do your journaling on a computer?
So I don't have the practice of journaling at all. But when I do have to write some notes and, get something written down, I do whatever it's accessible to me at that moment. So if it's my phone, I'm gonna open Google Keep and just make a note of something.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm on my computer, I actually like to use Sublime
Okay.
Text
All
Editor,
right.
because you open it, it writes something, and if you close it, it actually saves the file temporarily. So I never lose anything on Sublime.
Nice. All right. And since based on our conversation, I think I know the answer to this, but we'll see. And you're from Brazil, so I think I know where this will go. What is your favorite martial art?
Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
That's what I figured. I figured that would be your answer. And you are a practitioner, are you not? Is that right?
I've practiced in the past.
Yeah.
I've done a couple of years of it, and that's what my kids are doing right now.
Nice. Yeah, that's one thing. So I did karate for many years, and if I was going to go back and cross train, Brazilian Jiu Jitsu would be what I would do, because I'm claustrophobic, and I think if I ever got into like a grappling situation and somebody had their arm around my neck, I probably would freak out because I'm claustrophobic. So I think that's what I would definitely would want to do, as a Brazilian Jiu Jitsu for sure.
Yeah, it's a great one for especially for kids, but also for adults. It burns calories, it gets you focused. It's 1 hour of sparring that you got to do with other students. It's amazing.
Yeah, we did some rolling around here and there. We learned some stuff, some jujitsu stuff. But man, you leave the mat, you had a workout. You work hard.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Exactly.
So, yeah, that was a great workout. All right, well, you did fantastic on the lightning round. I would put you at around the 89, 91 percentile, somewhere in that range.
Okay.
From all our review, that's fantastic. That's a pretty good score. In closing, anything coming up for you that you want to let people know about? Are you writing any books? Are you going to be presenting anywhere? Anything like that, or any libraries you've got going on?
Yeah, well, I'm not a book author. I did help a little bit on a book about Java FX a few years ago.
Nice.
Actually, not a few years ago, more than 5 years ago. But other than that, I'm mostly like on social media. If people want to follow me, please feel free to reach out on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call these days.
Whatever it's called now.
Yeah. But I'm more active now on LinkedIn. So I feel like LinkedIn is becoming the social network for people who care about work, about building things.
Yeah.
That and GitHub. You combine LinkedIn and GitHub, you have the perfect environment for professional developers. You can get to meet other professional developers on LinkedIn, and you get to share work through GitHub. Twitter is and X and other social networks that are still useful, but for a variety of things. The good thing about LinkedIn is that because your resume is right next to it, you won't be posting that same amount of memes as you do on other social networks. Yeah. So the environment itself of LinkedIn helps filter out and contain people's enthusiasms of oversharing.
Yeah. You see it every now and then, and it's funny. It sticks out like a sore thumb on LinkedIn when people, kind of do that overshare. You're like, ooh,
yeah, exactly.
I've done that.
Like, bam, unfollow, ban.
Yeah, see you later. Yeah, I've seen a few of them, but people putting like political stuff or anything on LinkedIn, I'm like, that's not the place for that.
Exactly.
All right. Well, man, thank you so much. And I didn't mention it, but like I think we've known each other through like the internet for years and years and years, and I don't think we've ever come face to face before. So it was really a pleasure and to actually get to meet you face to face, even though it's virtual in 2 dimensions. But it was great to get to meet you finally, and hopefully we can do this again sometime. This was cool.
If you go to Orlando in October, I'll be around. Okay. There's a conference from IBM Tech Exchange
Yeah.
in partnership with JCon, which is a Java conference.
Yep.
So they are co-hosting JCon Inside Tech Exchange in October. I'll be around. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation. I appreciate you for the invitation and also for the questions. I love it.
Yeah, we have a good time here on the /. So thank you again. And really looking forward to other folks getting to enjoy this conversation as much as I did. See you next time. If you'd like to get in touch with us or be a guest on the show, drop us a line at the / at caliberty.com. The / podcast is created by Caliberty. Our director is Dylan Courts, producer Ryan Wilson, with editing by John Corey and Jeremy Brown. Marketing support comes from Taylor Blessing. I'm your host, James Carmen, and thank you for listening.